Hey Void, how you doing? Been a little bit. I've been kind of procrastinating, delaying. Yeah, it's kind of what I do. Anyway, I just hit my 5-year anniversary. This is the start of, well, I guess technically year 1 was going. I'm beginning my 5th year right now, so I've done this for 4 years completely, and beginning the 5th. Now, I haven't reviewed everything I saw in the 4th year because I got a little stack here. Runs back that way, but I kind of sat down and started thinking about how I want to keep going with this, because sometimes sitting down to actually record takes a lot to actually sit down and begin, because it's kind of even though I am very minimalist, it still takes an effort and commitment to sit down and churn through a bunch of these videos. Usually I do 4 to 5 at a time because I let my movies pile up and then clear them out. So rather than starting, stopping, and I'm just going to kind of keep going from one movie to the next in one video and not worry so much about having divided up. When I just started, I just kind of wanted to keep it one-on-one just to keep track of how many I was doing, I guess. Hence why I've got one video with 2 numbers on it. But in my old age, worried a little bit less about that. So I'm just going to be kind of gunning through as much of the stack as I feel I can talk about before either my voice gives out or I think this video has gone on too long. So, we'll see how that goes. Alright, so I probably won't get through everything here, and I'm probably going to be a little bit more short and sweet on some of them, because sometimes, like, for some, there's not a lot to talk about. But, well, here we go. So, format change up. I'll do a little what movies are included down below, and see how that goes. Okay. So, this is kind of in the order that I had watched them from it, and I'm proud of myself. I've been working through my collection like I've told you all. This is pretty much all A except for 1. Now, normally also every year I do 31 days, watch a horror movie every day, and I have been doing that. This video will not include that yet. That's going to be, I'll be putting those up in waves and kind of doing what I did day by day. Okay, but chunk to get through. See about getting through it. First one on the docket is Airplaine. Yeah, okay. I really do enjoy this movie. Airplane kind of is one that holds up very well. The humor still hits. It's one of the better spoof films out there. And it still holds up to this day. Came out circa 1980s, great cast. Leslie Nielsen did a very Van Damme performance, really works, so it's anything you sprinkle him in and it's going to be a hit for me. And he isn't even really the focus here, he's more of a secondary one. But, you know, Lloyd Bridges, Peter Graves, there's a lot of people here. Robert Hayes, Julie Haggerty. Great film. And this one actually does have what passes for a plot, essentially. Plane goes up carrying essentially, well, there's kind of a star-crossed lovers. Stewardess is trying to break off with her former pilot boyfriend who just can't get his life together. And, well, he finally wills himself to get on that plane and follow after her. And, well, when disaster strikes and most of the crew is taken ill, well, he now has to fly the plane. And silliness abounds. It's still infinitely quotable, very well done. It's rated PG, but it's a very 80s PG. There is full frontal nudity in this film at a PG rating. It definitely doesn't feel like it would be PG these days. This is a solidly PG-13. But yeah. No real notes against it. It still holds up very well. My partner isn't usually one for stupid humor, but she really does also enjoy Airplane. It's very punchy with its dialogue, and the straight-faced delivery it gives a lot of the jokes really works for it. The fact that they're taking their absurd situation very straight-faced works. For me, it's a solid 8 MacGuffins. I highly recommend Airplane. Okay, just going to keep moving along, and to the next film, the Amityville Horror. Tone shift. Okay. So I've already reviewed the OG Amityville Horror, and I do not give it a positive review. I've tried to like that movie. I still don't really like that movie. Second one, really like. And this one, I had seen in theaters. And I remembered liking this one. On this go round, I didn't like it as much as I remembered. It's not bad, and I'd like it. Still, definitely like it more than the OG. One of the few remakes that does work better for me. But I don't know. Something just wasn't landing as the way it was in my memory. Ryan Reynolds stars as George Lutz in this one, and he's doing a very good job. I really do like Ryan Reynolds' portrayal here. Okay. So it's pretty much the same Amityville as last time, but they definitely tighten the story a little bit. Rather than being over 2 hours, this one's a tight 89 minutes. So it's still them buying the house, starting to fix it up, and malevolent force starts possessing George, driving him to want to kill his family. That's all there. That's still the same. Some of the weirder parts of the original Amityville, like the ghost stealing money, that's not in this one. Also, the weird ghostly pig thing isn't in this either. Instead, one of the things I really did enjoy about this is essentially the name that they give the ghost pig imaginary friend thing is actually the name of the daughter from the family that got murdered and is now a ghost girl that's then the imaginary friend of the daughter of the Lutz family. That was working for me. I did like that. That's the CG here is real dodgy, and I don't know. It just didn't feel as tense as I remembered it being. I think they push making the characters less sympathetic. It's harder to. In the first one, you did feel bad for the situation of George Lutz while he was getting possessed. Everything was piling on him. And this one, there's less of those pressures. Like that one, they emphasize his work issues. This one, it doesn't really go into that, but it just indicates that he sunk all of his money into the house and is now going more intense because of that. Also, I don't remember if the original one. I think it was he was actually their father. In this one, he's a stepdad. Unnecessary change. Also, this one kind of, I think, is guilty of over-explaining. Like, this one, they go into the guy who made the house and pretty much turn him into this boogeyman that's seemingly possessing him, and it's rather this myth of, like, a gate to hell underneath the house. It's his back torture room that George is being too close to, so he gets possessed that way. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. I'm gonna just give it a 5 MacGuffins. It's passable, but the effects leave a little bit to be desired, and it just there's a story that works here. It's just between the original and this one, we're still not there. I think another try isn't unwarranted. I think an Amityville Horror movie can work. The Amityville Possession worked. That's pretty much almost could be considered a remake that we needed, but not quite there with these ones. The whole catch 'em and kill 'em thing, that was okay, but the fact that they named the last name Ketchum for the guy just made me think Pokemon. Take it or leave it. Excuse me. Alright, recharge. So, now I mentioned I was going to be doing this next one for a while. So, I had a day off of work. So, I thought, okay, I'm going to have a movie day. Well, that movie turned into one movie. Yep, my copy of Alexander that I mentioned in a previous video died, so I had to order a new one. Well, it came in. For better or worse, it worked. The fact that this is actually you actually to switch the disc in this was a choice. Okay, so it's not a bad film. This pretty much retells the life of Alexander the Great. So I do have some issues here with it, though. Okay, so Colin Farrell does a great job as Allo. The cast is good. Angelina Jolie is working. Val Kilmer, even Jared Leto's doing a pretty good job here. He can be hit and miss. Anthony Hopkins, the cast is good, and they're doing a good job. The problem is, well, the length is kind of first and foremost. This movie is way too damn long. And I guess it is kind of my fault for choosing this particular version of Alexander. So the first movie incarnation, Alexander, topped off at what was it? It was like 2.5 hours, I think. Yeah, something like that. So it was long, 2.5 hours something. But then they made the director's cut, which is like 90 minutes. No, it was too short. Then Alexander revisited the final cut. Not actually the final cut, they made another one. It is damn near 4 hours long. Yeah, this took my whole day. This was a lot of watching. One issue I was having was the time jumping in this one. Fine, I'm okay with jumping back and forth through his lives, but it's like, it'll say here, 20 years before, 5 years later, 7 years later, 2 years before. I am losing track. I should not have to take notes for where we are in the timeline here. I was losing where we were. That said, the battles are cool. There's a little bit of CG on the blooding, but it's not too bad and goes quick, so the effects were working. The battle scenes are cool. A lot of the drama is working. I do appreciate them not shying away from Alexander's more diverse romances. I appreciate they actually went into his actual sexuality. Plenty of man-kissing. And I'm completely glad that they went that route. And the fact that he did still have his girlfriend, which I believe was canonical, so he actually, I think, had a whole harem in this one by the end of it. Problem is, we just keep skimming the surface of a bunch of events, and as much detail as they go into here, and they go into a lot of detail, you still only learn a little bit about what's going on. That said, there's some narration here I was a little unsure about, but we do flash to where it's coming from as the guy is telling pretty much his takes on Alexander, which allows him to embellish and saying that, well, some of this may not be true because it's him telling a story. Because it's lets them get away with a little bit more. And sure. I know there's a lot of weird stuff in Alexander's life that they didn't put in here, which I think they should have gone for it with how much they were already putting in. It's really well made. Don't get me wrong. And I can't say I was completely bored by it either. But I was starting to watch the clock, particularly at the 3-hour mark, knowing I still had a whole hour to go. It does suffer for the length. It is a mini-series. This should have been a mini-series, where you could eat it in small, digestible bites, particularly since you're time jumping. If you would have watched different time periods and then per episode, that could have worked. This wants to be a mini-series. That said, I'll still give it a good 6 MacGuffins, because it's still very well put together. Alright. So next. So far, so good here. I have some of my 50 Sci-Fi Mad Scientist Theater collection. Now, this was in my stack down there, but I just had individual discs marking their place, because this collection's actually in a couple spots in this stack. So, I'm going to be talking about 2 films back to back. The Ape and The Ape Man. Because, well, kind of similar. Kind of really similar. And not just with the title. Actually, right here, that's The Ape Man there on the cover. So, The Ape came first in 1940. Ape Man, 1943. So, The Ape involves, that one's Boris Karloff. And, so, he's a mad scientist who is hated in town. But, this local paraplegic girl, he's her doctor and he's trying to help her learn to walk again. So, he's trying to get a serum to give it, though, but having some problems. Well, local circus comes to town. Gorilla escapes. kills injures a circus guy, and then runs off. Now, circus guy gets brought into, well, our friendly Dr. Karloff, who realizes, wait, I could use this man, and this man's probably not, may or may not make it, but he's got a lot of spinal fluid. I could use that. And he uses that to make a serum that starts having some positive effects. Now, only problem, he needs more spinal fluid to get this girl walking. But taking the spinal fluid is pretty fatal. So, well, the ape comes to Karloff's place and tries to attack him, but, well, he kills the ape, and then turns it into an ape suit and goes around killing people to get their spinal fluid. Okay, there's a lot to unpack with Boris Karloff putting on a dead gorilla to go a-murdering. But I can't say it was boring. The movie is odd, but it wasn't good either. But Karloff's performance here really sells this movie. He is so determined to protect this girl that reminds him of his daughter and get her walking again that he's going to do anything. Including kill while dressed up wearing a dead ape. Weird movie. For the ape, I'll give it 4 MacGuffins. It's not great, but it's not too bad. The Ape Man. Now, this involves Bela Lugosi. Now, he has turned himself into an ape man by injecting himself with something. I can't even remember what he was trying to cure in this case. But he didn't have any test subjects, so he used it on himself and is now permanently like this. So he calls his old doctor friend, and his doctor friend's kind of keeping him hidden. And then his wife comes and is now determined to help get him back by any means necessary. And you know what that means necessary is? More spinal fluid! Everybody wants the spinal fluid. Seems to be kind of what everyone's after. For these. Anyway, he gets ejected, then eventually he pretty much sneaks out using a gorilla to come help him, kills the guy, gets some spinal fluid, and but then it's not enough. He needs more, so he wants his friend to help him. His friend's like, I'm not gonna kill people for you, guy. And kind of gets to do this tense back and forth between him and with his wife backing our Ape Man. Now this movie is this one's weird. It's definitely playing itself more like a comedy. Particularly this one character that's just kind of wandering around, just occasionally giving cryptic advice or jokes, and just seems to be eagerly watching the proceedings but not interfering too much. They have kind of a sales sticker with, I'm the author! It's like weird. This one does play itself more as a comedy, and it is kind of funny. This one isn't as good, I think, overall as The Ape, but The Ape Man's sense of humor does keep it in that same category, so both The Ape and The Ape Man I'm giving about 4 MacGuffins to. They're little oddities that still are worth seeing. Alright, we're through 5 so far. I'm going to keep going a little bit longer. I'm definitely not getting through the whole stack here in one vid. I'm thinking half hour is probably going to be where I'm going to call things. But at least we'll have whittled it down. Okay. Next, Afro Samurai. Yeah. I have variety. So, Afro Samurai was a 6-episode anime series that I think right now I don't know if it was ever released in its original Japanese, but the dubbed version features Samuel L. Jackson as both Afro and Ninja, and Ron Perlman as one of his antagonists. So the voice cast is still pretty good here. So it's a very short series. It pretty much focuses around these headbands. The number 1 headband and the number 2. Whoever has the number 1 headband is pretty much God. But the only person who can fight the guy with the number 1 headband is the number 2. but it means everybody can fight the number 2. And so Afro, we flash back to a lot of Afro's past because his father was the former number 1 who got killed. Now he's been determined to learn how to fight and get revenge ever since, despite his adoptive family saying, no, don't do this. Well, he do this. When his whole family pretty much gets slaughtered, him and his new ninja friend set off on a quest to climb this mountain to get the guy who killed his father. And it's pretty much a series of fights of people trying to stop Afro from getting up this mountain. Now, this movie seems to take place in the same time period as Sayuki of the time period is Sure. It's very feudal medieval Japan, but there's rocket launchers and cell phones. And computers. Like, there's this techno monk group in there, but everyone else seems to be very traditional. I have no idea when this is supposed to be taking place. I don't think this movie cares. Yeah, overall, it's fun, short. It doesn't overstay, but there's a lot of... You quickly accept the way this world works, but if you think about it, it's like this... You could use a little bit more detail for world building. I know there's a sequel movie. I haven't seen that, but it's a fun time. Afro Samurai, for me, it just rides 5 MacGuffins. It's worth seeing, but it's not one I come back to regularly. It's watchable in like a single night, which is what I did. Definitely a little over the top in the blood department, which fine. It's a serviceable short little series. Okay, what's not as serviceable? Arachnia. Now, I got this movie years ago. Oh, Afro Samurai circa 2007. Didn't mention that. 2007. This one's circa 2003, and I got this movie at least a decade ago, if not decade and a half, and I never watched this. I never got around to it. This has sat in my collection for collecting dust for a decade and a half. Finally sat down to watch it for this. Yeah. It's what you expect. It's so this one there's a group of people, students and a professor flying a plane that crashes because of meteors. Sure. And they touch down in this kind of farm area. Well, the meteors seem to have opened a cave, which let out giant spiders. And and then they're on the run from very big spiders, and that are attacking the little home that they're holed up in. Well, it does have a sense of humor about it, which does keep it being a slog, but there's some practical effects here, but a lot of bad CG on this. When it does do practical, I do appreciate it, but overall, Arachnia, it's what you expect. It's not a good film by any means. The dialoguing is not great, and they pretty much have one tomboy just to be the tomboy, one stoner just to be the stoner, and yeah. And they throw some lesbians in there just cause. I don't know. I guess they're doing anything to try to keep your attention. It worked to some degree. I'll give Arachnia 3 MacGuffins. Well, no, 2. 2 MacGuffins. That's the most I'm going to give Arachnia. The giant rubber spiders. We're only doing so much here. Now these are... I don't know how much there really is to talk about Arachnia. There's no soundtracking worth mentioning. The effects are obviously bad. The acting is bad. It's a dumb movie. Yep. Arachnia is one you don't need to rush out to see. Actually, I'm doing pretty good. I'm whittling through my stack. Okay. Alright, back to this collection. So, there's 2 more films that started with A, so I just gunned all of them. Next one, Atom Age Vampire. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I watched this a couple weeks ago. I forgot what Animage Vampire was about. I knew it didn't have a vampire in it, but I had to actually read look at the synopsis to remind myself what this was. Okay, so Animage Vampire focuses around this model that gets disfigured in a car accident. By disfigured, I mean just her cheek is a little bit wrinkly from like some burns. She's still really pretty. But she thinks she's hideous, so doctor wants to try his gene therapy thing that involves radiation, but the good kind, to see about fixing her. Which he does. Problem is, for some reason, it doesn't stick, and her skin keeps going back to where it was, until he, make a better version of the formula, he needs glands. I mean, definitely glands this time instead of spinal fluid. And to get them, he must kill. So he irradiates himself, turning himself into this monster to go steal glands and keep giving them to her. Meanwhile, keeping her isolated from her family. And he's starting to fall in love with her, much to the dismay of his assistant/girlfriend. And there's a lot of interplay here. So this movie is much cut down from the Italian film Sedoc, L'erede di Satana. Sedoc is in the Italian version what they're calling this monster that the doctor becomes. But that doesn't actually appear in this version. This one's like a half hour shorter. The movie's very short, so it's definitely packed down. It's fine. The effects aren't actually bad for the time, and I do say some of the character interplays, despite the bad dubbing, actually was working for me for Animage Vampire. Again, it's not getting above a 4 MacGuffins for me, but sure. Last one for today is the other A1 on this collection, which is The Atomic Brain. Oh, Animage Vampire is 1960. This one's 1963. The Atomic Brain, also called Monstrosity. This one, I remember more from the Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode, which kind of tells you what kind of territory we're in. Okay, so this one, evil old lady is evil and old, so she wants to stop being at least so old, even if she still wants to keep being so evil. So her plan is to use radiation to take her brain and put it into another body. A young and beautiful body. So, she is pretty much a scientist who's beholden to her because that's where his funding's coming from for his brain transplant experiments. And essentially he's trying to help revive the dead or make immortality research, essentially is what he's into. So, they get 3 foreign housekeepers to come live there that are all very beautiful, and wants to try to to see observe them and see which one she wants to put her brain into. One of them definitely isn't her type, so that one ends up getting killed in an accident, and they put a cat's brain into her body. Seeing this actress go full cat, she was giving this movie her all, which is more than this movie deserved. But otherwise, then it becomes these 2 girls stuck in this house, trying to figure out realizing something's wrong and trying to figure out how to escape before, well, one of them has an old lady's brain put into her. This movie's got some twists. Actually, despite Mystery Science Theater 3000 going after this one, there's a lot going on here, and it definitely kept my attention more than a lot of the other this collection that I just went. So for me, I like this one better than the Ape Man, and Animage Vampire. I'm actually giving this one a 5 MacGuffins. As silly as the premise is, they go for it. I actually really enjoyed the Atomic Brain, particularly just seeing people in such a strange situation going for it. Mostly due to the cat girl. I appreciated her acting. some of the characters do some dumb things. When the one girl's clearly hissing at them and acting like a cat, and someone's still trying to go for her, yeah, she's going to get her eye clawed out. But yeah, this one I'm actually going to give a 5 MacGuffin to. Alright, so it's going to be all for this one. I still got 1, 2, 3, 4. Got 4 more, but I don't think I want to get into that just right now since I've already been going a half hour. We'll call it about there. I'll pick up these ones in another day or so. Probably won't be as long, but yeah, we'll go from there. Alright, Void. Good to talk to you. And if you have any comments on me going more at length, whether you like it, you don't, let me know in the comments. Alright. See you guys later.